My girlfriend let her brother borrow my prized car and it got dented. She said, "It's just a car. Stop overreacting." I calmly replied, "You're right." The next day, she asked for the keys. I tossed her a bike key. I said, "I sold the car this morning so I wouldn't have to overreact anymore." She froze, realizing her new ride was. My name is Julian Vance. I'm 38 years old, and my passion is rooted in the precision of machinery as an aerospace engineer in Detroit, Michigan. I work with systems where a single flaw can be catastrophic. I value integrity, perfection, and the idea that something crafted with care deserves respect. That core belief extended most deeply to my 1971 Mustang Fastback. It wasn't just a car. It was a testament to years of work, restored by my own hands, piece by piece. The car, valued at over $45,000, was my sanctuary, and the only piece of my past I allowed myself to be sentimental about. I met Sierra, 35, 3 years ago. She was vibrant, fast-paced, and worked in high-end event planning, revolving in a world defined by external image and flash. She saw the Mustang not as a work of art, but as a status symbol she could leverage. Our relationship began to falter when her ambition clashed with my principles. She viewed my meticulous work ethic as stubbornness, and my caution as weakness. She constantly urged me to sell the car, saying, "It's just an old machine, Julian. Let's use the money for a real vacation." Her world was built on consumption. Mine was built on conservation. Sierra came from a background where entitlement was the common language. She and her younger brother, Leo, were accustomed to asking for things and receiving them without question. Leo, 27, was the perennial work in progress, irresponsible, drifting between jobs, and perpetually in need of a handout. Sierra always covered him, and she subtly trained me to do the same. I yielded on small things. I paid for expensive dinners and funded her impulse purchases. But the Mustang was my red line. I told her explicitly, "The car is non-negotiable." That boundary was constantly tested. She would argue that my attachment to the car was childish, calling it my rusty toy. She could not grasp that its value wasn't the market price, but the hundreds of hours of my life I poured into its perfect restoration. This conflict was the invisible flaw in our relationship's foundation. It was a test of whether she respected me as an engineer and as a man, or simply as a resource. She thought my deep love for the Mustang was a weakness she could exploit or ridicule. She was about to discover it was the exact point of my greatest strength. The conflict remained mostly submerged until Sierra's younger brother Leo entered the picture. Leo was 27, perpetually chasing a get-rich-quick scheme that always failed before the second week. He didn't respect boundaries, he didn't value responsibility, and he certainly didn't value machinery that wasn't brand new. I had always kept my distance from Leo's chaos, but Sierra, being his lifelong defender, constantly tried to pull me into his orbit. She saw my stability as a resource meant to cushion her brother's constant falls. The escalation began on a busy Friday afternoon. I was in the garage, meticulously checking the Mustang's oil and tire pressure, a quiet ritual I never skipped. Sierra walked in, her voice pitched high with a sudden manufactured urgency. "Julian, thank goodness you're here. Leo needs the Mustang." I stood up straight, wiping my hands on a rag, disbelief hitting me hard. "No, absolutely not." "Don't be like that," she insisted, her tone immediately turning brittle. "It's just for a few hours. He has a meeting with a big investor and needs to look professional. He can't show up in his old sedan. It screams poverty." The request was an insult to my hard work. The Mustang was my prized possession. It was more sacred to me than any piece of jewelry. I had explicit rules. No one drives it except me. The answer is no, Sierra. That car is non-negotiable. It is not a rental. It's just a car, Julian. Stop treating it like a museum piece, she snapped, her contempt for my passion finally bubbling over. She then pulled out her ultimate manipulation tactic. Her voice softened, becoming dangerously persuasive, laced with implied criticism. If you truly trusted me, and if you truly cared about my family's future, you would do this one small favor. You know how much this means to Leo. He needs this confidence boost. You'll only let him down because you're jealous of his potential. The accusation was a low blow, attacking my character and suggesting I was trying to sabotage her brother. I looked at the beautiful black paint, then back at Sierra's expectant, calculating face. I hated that she had backed me into a corner where protecting my car meant proving I was selfish. My engineering mind warred with my exhaustion. I broke. I gave in to the pressure, rationalizing that a few hours couldn't hurt, and that refusing would only trigger weeks of punitive arguments. I walked to the toolbox, pulled out the specific key with the leather fob, and dropped it into her outstretched hand. He drives slow. No fast starts. He brings it back by midnight, I commanded. Sierra's face lit up, not with gratitude, but with triumph. She had won the battle for control. Thank you, babe. I knew you'd be reasonable, she chirped, kissing me quickly before rushing out. I watched her go, the scent of her perfume lingering in the garage air, feeling a cold knot of dread twist in my stomach. I had violated my own cardinal rule, and I instantly knew I would regret it. Midnight came and went. The Mustang was late. I stood in the garage, pacing the concrete floor, my anxiety growing with each passing minute. Leo was supposed to return the car by midnight. At 1:30 a.m., I heard the distinct, sick crunch of gravel and a sputtering engine. The garage door lifted, and the sight that greeted me turned my stomach to ice. The 1971 Mustang was back, but it was ruined. The pristine black fender was pushed in at a sickening angle. The driver's side headlight was completely shattered. The chrome bumper, which I had spent an entire month restoring, was buckled and torn. Leo stumbled out, his face pale, smelling heavily of stale beer and cheap panic. Julian, man, I'm so sorry, he slurred, running a hand through his hair. It was just a tiny fender bender. I swear I didn't see the post. I walked around the damage, my engineer's mind calculating the cost. The specialty bodywork, the chrome replacement, the interior damage from the impact. This wasn't a fender bender. This was easily $8,000 to $10,000 worth of damage. I didn't yell at Leo. I looked at the damaged frame, the perfect machine I had brought back from the dead, and felt a profound, cold sense of violation. Get out of my garage, Leo, I said, my voice dangerously low. Go home. We'll talk about the police report and the insurance tomorrow. He didn't argue. He tossed the keys onto the workbench and bolted out the door, eager to escape the silent judgment. I stood there for another 20 minutes, just staring at the mangled metal, the rage building in a slow, suffocating wave. The car was a symbol of my persistence, my ability to create perfection from scrap. And now, it was just damaged property. Sierra arrived 15 minutes later, alerted by a panicked call from Leo. She didn't look at the car. She looked at me, her expression instantly defensive. Leo said you're freaking out, she snapped. I can't believe you're making a scene over this. He's fine, isn't he? That's what matters. I finally turned to her, pointing at the shattered headlight. Look at it, Sierra. He drove drunk. He totaled a piece of my history, and he broke a non-negotiable rule. The repair is going to cost over $8,000. She tossed her hand dismissively, the gesture carrying the full weight of her contempt. Oh, Julian, for God's sake, it's just a car. Stop overreacting. You're a successful engineer. You can afford the deductible. That was the final cut. She had reduced my passion, my sanctuary, my greatest personal achievement, to a casual, interchangeable object. She had confirmed that she saw no value in me beyond my paycheck. I met her eyes. I took a slow breath, letting the silent acceptance settle over my features. You're right, I said, my voice empty of any emotion she could recognize. You are absolutely right. I walked past her, the decision cold and irreversible in my mind. I was no longer angry. I was simply calculating the final, devastating move that would remove the source of my overreaction from her life entirely. I stood in the garage for another hour after Sierra left, staring at the ruined Mustang. The metallic scent of oil and gasoline used to bring me peace. Now it only smelled like betrayal. I knew I couldn't afford to repair it. Not financially, I had the money, but emotionally. Every wrench turn, every hour spent sanding the primer would be a constant, grinding reminder of Sierra's contempt. It's just a car. Stop overreacting. There would be no overreacting. There would be no repair. There would only be a clean, definitive cut. I walked inside and immediately opened my laptop. I didn't open social media. I opened my business contacts. First, I called a lawyer, not for divorce, but for a property transfer consultation. I laid out the facts. I own the car outright. There is current damage, and I want it liquidated immediately before any insurance claims muddy the title. The lawyer, familiar with asset protection, was concise. Sell it as is to a collector for cash. Assign the claim rights over to them for a quick exit. The goal wasn't maximum profit. It was maximum speed and finality. Next, I called a private collector I knew who specialized in rare frames and damaged restorations. I sent him photos of the damage, along with the estimated repair costs. He understood the value of the original shell and made a fair, immediate cash offer. The decision was sealed. The $45,000 prized car would be gone by the end of the day. I didn't tell Sierra. I didn't tell Leo. I didn't want discussion. I wanted execution. I spent the next 3 hours in a mechanical daze. I removed every personal item from the Mustang's interior. A small wrench Dad gave me, a faded photo of my mother, and the original owner's manual I'd spent months hunting down. Each item was a small piece of my past I was salvaging from the wreckage. By 4 p.m., the flatbed tow truck arrived, discreetly arranged by the buyer. I watched the man winch the damaged, beautiful machine onto the ramp. The engine was silent. My heart was silent. The buyer handed me a cashier's check. The value of my passion was now liquid capital, cold, clean, and easily hidden. I walked back into the silent garage, the place that had been my sanctuary. It was empty now, smelling faintly of motor oil and regret. I had removed the one thing she thought I could never let go of, and in doing so, I had removed the source of her contempt and my overreaction. The money was deposited immediately into a new, separate account. I was ready for the next, final phase of the plan. The sale was finalized, the money secured, but the revenge wasn't complete until the new reality was delivered to Sierra. I needed an object to replace the Mustang, something that symbolized exactly what she had left me with after the damage. contempt, and a burden. I drove to a local pawn shop, ignoring the high-end dealerships where Sierra bought her clothes. I found it quickly. A beat-up, single-speed bicycle, rusted on the chain, with a faded green paint job and a flat rear tire. It looked like it had been pulled from a river. The price was $75. It was perfect. I paid cash, tossing the single tarnished key into my pocket. Next, I went home. I found the original leather-bound presentation box for the Mustang's spare key, a piece of custom Italian leather Sierra had insisted on when the car was finished. It was an object that screamed expense, meant to hold the key to a $45,000 legacy. I carefully cleaned the box, polishing the silver buckle until it shone. Then, with surgical precision, I placed the rusted, cheap key to the bicycle inside the luxurious leather case. I wrapped the box meticulously in glossy silver paper and tied it with the thick velvet bow I'd found in her discarded gift-wrapping supplies. I wanted her to anticipate something magnificent. I wanted her entitlement to be the final layer of the trap. I was waiting for her to come home when my phone buzzed. It was Leo. "Julian, Sierra is furious. She says you need to pay for the damage now, or she's going to call the police on me." I replied, "Tell Sierra I'm handling everything. The matter of the car will be resolved tomorrow morning." Hours later, Sierra walked in. She was still wearing the same clothes from the night before, her face tight with anger. "You need to deal with this, Julian. Leo is threatening to call the police." "Relax, Sierra," I said, my voice calm. "I told you I handled it. The car is no longer a problem. The overreacting is officially over." She paused, confusion flickering in her eyes. "What does that mean? Did you have the deductible covered?" "It means I solved the problem permanently," I said, gesturing to the beautifully wrapped box I'd placed on the kitchen island. "It's a small gift. Happy Monday." She looked at the elegant package, then back at me. Her anger subsided immediately, replaced by curiosity and greed. "What is it?" she asked. "The keys to your new ride," I replied, watching her anticipate the latest German luxury sedan. "Go ahead. Open it." Sierra's greed had completely overshadowed her fury. She ignored the looming argument and reached immediately for the beautifully wrapped package on the island. Her hands, usually manicured and precise, fumbled with the silver paper, eager to uncover the latest German luxury sedan key she imagined waited inside. The paper tore away, revealing the custom, leather-bound box, the same box I'd used for the Mustang's spare key. Her excitement peaked. She lifted the lid with a triumphant flourish, anticipating the polished metal and the German logo. But inside lay only one object, a small, tarnished, rusty key, the kind that unlocks a bicycle chain. The room, still humming with the afterglow of my handling the situation, went completely silent. Sierra stared at the single piece of cheap, dull metal, her face frozen in pure disbelief. She slowly picked up the key, turning it over in her palm like it was contaminated. "What is this, Julian?" she whispered, her voice dangerously flat. "Those are the keys to your new ride," I replied, my voice steady and empty. "I decided I needed to solve our problem permanently." She slammed the expensive leather box onto the counter. "Where is the Mustang? What did you do with the real car key?" She was transitioning from confusion to blinding rage, realizing that she hadn't been gifted a luxury car, but something far, far worse. "I solved the problem, Sierra," I repeated. She started toward the bedroom, obviously planning to confront me later when she realized I wasn't backing down. This is not funny. You're going to give me the keys to the Mustang now, or I'm calling the police. I leaned against the counter, crossed my arms, and let the full weight of the truth land with surgical precision. You're right, I said, repeating her words from the night before. You are absolutely right, Sierra. It's just a car, and I shouldn't overreact. I walked to the drawer, pulled out the simple, tarnished key to the single-speed bike I'd bought, and tossed it to her. She caught it out of reflex, staring at the key, unable to process the meaning. I tossed you the bike key, I continued, delivering the full, devastating line from the hook. I said, I sold the car this morning so I wouldn't have to overreact anymore. The words hung in the air. Her mouth fell open. The shock was absolute. Sold it? You can't be serious. That car was worth $45,000. It was worth more to me than that, but I found a buyer this morning who appreciated the frame for restoration. The money is in my new account. I won't be paying the deductible, and I won't be dealing with the drama. She looked down at the rusty bike key in her hand, then back at the realization of the massive financial loss. She hadn't just lost the car. She had lost the symbol of her power and the control over my emotional life. Her face twisted into a snarl of pure hatred. You cold-blooded engineer. You actually liquidated a piece of your own history just to spite me. No, I corrected, my voice cold. I liquidated a piece of my future anxiety so I could be free of your contempt. She lunged at me, not with intent to hurt, but with the primal rage of someone who has lost absolute control. She grabbed the nearest object, a crystal vase, but I deflected her easily. The vase smashed against the floor, mirroring the shattered remains of our relationship. She stood there, defeated, the truth heavy in the silence of the room. The shattering of the crystal vase was the final punctuation mark on our relationship. Sierra stood amidst the debris, breathing hard, her expensive facade completely gone. She looked small, defeated, and utterly exposed. The police, she finally gasped. You're going to tell the police my brother crashed your car? I shook my head. I won't. Because the car no longer exists for me to report. The matter is closed. She blinked, confusion warring with terror. The matter is closed? Where is it? You towed it to a shop to spite me, didn't you? No, I said. I sold it this morning. As is. The weight of the sale landed hard. The money is in an account under my name only. The damage is covered by the buyer. Your brother's reckless driving and your contempt. They cost you the ability to ever use the Mustang again. She realized she had lost not just a battle, but the entire war. She tried one final, desperate emotional play. What about the insurance? I'm on the policy. You owe me the claim money. The claim rights were assigned to the buyer as part of the cash deal, I replied, my voice dry. You get nothing. You get the knowledge that you destroyed a piece of art. She looked at the small, rusted key to the bicycle lying on the counter, then back at me. And this? You think this is funny? You traded a classic for a junk bike? No, I corrected. I traded a source of endless disrespect for $45,000 in liquid peace, and the bike key is your compensation. Compensation for what? She shrieked. For your next ride. Since you were so concerned about the cost of my car, you now get to ride the value of your behavior. I walked to the front door, pausing with my hand on the knob. I'm filing for divorce tomorrow. I want you out of this apartment by the end of the week. You can call your lawyer or your brother, but the answer remains the same. She stood there, defeated, the realization of her total loss sinking in. She had spent years treating me like a backup plan and my passion like a child's toy. I never saw her again in that apartment. She moved out swiftly, silently, her reputation in Detroit's social circles already damaged by the rumors of the smashed vase and the vanished car. Leo, faced with a massive repair bill and no car to show for it, was forced to confront his own irresponsibility. I sold the apartment, which held too many memories of contempt, and bought a smaller house with a massive, dedicated workshop. The garage, once empty and sterile, now smelled of flux and fresh primer, the honest sense of building something new. I built a new life, brick by brick, free from the toxic chaos of her entitlement. I never regretted the sale. The money I received was less than the car's theoretical perfect value, but the value of the immediate freedom was priceless. Sierra wanted me to overreact and feel bound by her rules. I chose the only appropriate response. I permanently removed the object of the conflict. The engine of my old self, the one that allowed manipulation, was officially retired. I had traded a beautiful, damaged Mustang for something far more valuable: my own integrity.